Let's bring in our guest first,
okay.
But then we'll go to that soundbite immediately. Distinguished University Professor at Touro College, Thane Rosenbaum, and constitutional law attorney Amir Benno. But as we bring them up,
do we have the Marsha Blackburn soundbite? Can we get that? This is hi, gentlemen. Yeah. Can we get that and show that? Because this is where we are these days.
Yeah. Senator Marsha Blackburn from yesterday.
Yes, no, anyone?
Okay, let's bring that up.
Can you provide a definition for the word woman?
Can I provide a definition?
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah.
I can't.
You can't?
Not in this context.
So
I'm not a biologist.
The meaning of the word woman is so unclear and controversial that you can't give me a definition?
Senator, in my work as a judge, what I do is I address disputes. If there's a dispute about a definition, people make arguments, and I look at the law and I decide.
Well,
that's where we are.
The bottom line is she couldn't define a woman because she's not a biologist.
Yes, and we know she can define a woman.
Right.
But she will not define a woman.
And she's defined as a woman of color, specifically.
That's why
how she is up for this
job.
role. So, Amir, we'll start with you. Your thoughts on it.
Well, I think you just hit on it exactly. It's one of the defining attributes of why she was picked and why she's sitting in that chair today and yesterday and the rest of the week during this confirmation process. And she's clearly signaling to the left that controls this whole process that she's not going to buck their views. And even though she slid in there the word biology, the fact of the matter is she's probably the most radical of all of the choices that Joe Biden had. And this just confirms it, that she's not willing to sort of lay down the law, so to speak, and to say what everybody knows to be the case as to what a woman is.
Yeah. And Thane and Bob, I mean, I thought it was also another indication of what we have mentioned throughout the entire hearings, where she's being so careful with what she is saying.
Yeah, it's just it's a game to avoid any controversy. She's playing for 50 votes, 51 votes, and she doesn't want to say anything. She's not there to win the argument. She's there to avoid bad votes, right? Let's take a look at one of the things, Thane, Professor. Senator Graham pressing her on her judicial activism on illegal immigration. He had this to say.
I don't know how you could tell a judge more clearly that the administration, the agency in question, has discretion to do certain things within the statute. So this is an example to me, and you may not agree, where the plain language of the statute was completely wiped out by you. You reached a conclusion because you disagree with the Trump administration. That, to me, is Exhibit A of activism.
So that's what the concern is, that she's ignoring, ironically saying she's not a part of the legislature, so she doesn't want to make a call on a lot of these things, yet that she would legislate from the bench, Amir, or Thane. That's what the concern is.
Right. Well, remember, yesterday she was very clear, right? I'm neutral. I stay in my own lane. I exercise judicial restraint. I'm judicially independent. And I think that Lindsey Graham didn't quite complete the loop, but he was trying to say, you said that you weren't going to make policy from the bench. You said you weren't going to legislate from the bench and that you were simply calling balls and strikes and staying within your own lane. But this decision certainly looks like you went outside of your lane in a way that went beyond the text. You ignored the text of the statute in order to get the result that you wanted to achieve.
Yeah, Amir, through all of this, are there any big red flags, or do you have any concerns specifically with her that stand out that would lead you to believe, either that exchange or others, that she is going to, be a judicial activist and not be fair in some of her rulings?
Oh, certainly. I first of all, the fact that she's supported by the progressives' choice and demands justice should tell you all that you need to know about where she stands on many of those issues. Secondly, her view on unenumerated rights in the Constitution, essentially not taking an originalist approach, but saying that the Constitution says whatever you want it to say in order to get it to support your conceived idea of where you want it to be, that's very problematic. Her refusal to acknowledge certain constitutional religious liberty, First Amendment, what have you, instead of she's saying all the time that she's going to defer to precedent. But when you're on the Supreme Court as opposed to on a lower court, a district court and a circuit court of appeals, your job is not necessarily to just follow precedent. Your job is to determine whether the precedent that exists should continue to exist. Mm-hmm. We see that this term when we're dealing with affirmative action, when we're dealing with abortion, she's going to have to answer the question as to how she interprets the Constitution. Yeah. And she fails to do it. She's not giving that answer. And that's the answer that these senators need to know, because they have a constitutional duty when they took their oath to not approve of somebody who is going to do violence to the Constitution. And if they fail to do that and they just pass her along, then they're not living up to their own oath.
By the way, MSNBC host Joy Reid came out slamming Republican senators over their questions about the judge's record on sentencing pedophiles. Here's her comment.
Say Josh Hawley, who had nothing to say and fully supported Brett Kavanaugh. They're claiming that they are the defenders of the integrity of childhood. They're going to go after child pornography and rape. Brett Kavanaugh was accused, credibly, of rape, and the victims were teenage girls and college students, high school and college students. So Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz and Lindsey Graham and all the rest of you, Mike Lee, all of you, and Tom Thuggish Cotton, you didn't defend the teenage victims of the man you gleefully put in a lifetime position on the Supreme Court.
Yeah, Thane, I wonder if she realizes that one of those cases where Judge Jackson significantly reduced the sentence of the person involved was where that person sent out pictures of his own 10-year-old daughter. And then Judge Jackson significantly reduced the sentence to below the low level of the federal guidelines.
Heather, it's true. But, this is so beyond just child pornography.
Right.
I think the point that they're really making is that, do you have progressive leanings or do you have a progressive agenda? Because if you have a progressive agenda, that's a problem when it comes to crime control, right? Because remember the progressive agenda, defund the police, right? The Constitution is trash, right? This is an irredeemably racist nation. Race, gender, and identity are more important than due process, presumption of innocence, the rule of law. So I think that all of the things that the Republicans have been getting at are really essentially the idea of critical race theory. Do parents have control over what their children learn in school? Mm-hmm. This is all a way of chipping around how much of a progressive are you? Because the progressive agenda, the First Amendment, right? If we don't agree with what you say, we'll shout you down, cancel you from the culture, and banish you because you're not just someone we disagree with. We think you're a morally bad person. Mm-hmm. So these are not small issues, as Amir pointed out. These are really constitutionally crucial questions that are being asked, but it's because she's supported broadly by the progressives, and I think she certainly knows there's a limit to how much she can come across as progressive in this hearing.
Okay, Thane, Amir, always a pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.